Today I'm going to be talking about living in the now, the precious present, the moment. How many times have we worried about something in the future or beaten ourselves up over something that happened in the past? Ruminating, telling ourselves things that we should have done differently, and which can be helpful to a certain extent. Thinking about how to do something different in regards to how you act in the future can be beneficial. But when we beat ourselves up and constantly think about quote unquote mistakes from the past, we may be missing wonderful opportunities in the precious present. I also want to talk about living in the moment with regards to how we feel about ourselves. How many times have you said, I will love myself, I will fill in the blank when I fill in the blank? I will love myself when I lose the 15 pounds that I need, quote unquote, need to lose. I will be a better mom when my kids are X number of years old. I will spend more time with my kids when I can get done with this project. Are we taking the opportunity to find what we can do now to live out that want? So I want to spend more time with my kids, but I can't do that until I finish this project. Or can you? Can you carve out pockets of time, short, small pockets of time in the precious present that you can invest in your kids, take a break from that project to refresh, rejuvenate, and then get back to whatever it is you need to work on? What if we asked ourselves, what would happen if we loved ourselves now? If we stopped beating ourselves up over the weight we gained during the year 2020, or the habits, the bad habits we got into? What if we loved ourselves now and then took action based on love instead of based on shame and guilt? Shame and guilt can be toxic for us as moms and for human beings in general. When we act from a place of feeling shameful over something we've done or who we are, shame over who we think we are, or guilt over how we think we quote unquote should be, then we are less likely to sustain whatever we're acting on. So if we are coming from a place of shame and guilt in terms of creating a new habit, maybe that new habit is drinking more water. If we're constantly beating ourselves up over never drinking rarely or rarely drinking water in the past and coming up with excuses and thinking about our mistakes from the past and feeling guilty over those and trying to make a change because of that guilt that we feel, we're less likely to make that a sustainable habit. But when we come from a place of love, when we say, I love myself now, and I accept myself now, who I am, and I want to make a change, and will continue to love myself throughout this change, the actions we take are more likely to become a sustainable habit. So if you want to take action to become healthier inside and out, and you come at it from a place of, I love and accept myself where I am now, and I'm going to take action based on that self-love, I want to see if you can create habits based on loving yourself into change instead of beating yourself up into something different in your life. How we see ourselves has a huge impact on what we say to ourselves, and which then can impact our actions. So, how we see ourselves, good, bad, in between, can have an impact on our actions. So, how we see ourselves oftentimes comes across in what we think about ourselves. So, how we see ourselves plays out in the thoughts that we have. And unfortunately, when we see ourselves in a negative light, we're more likely to have negative thoughts swirling around in our heads like a tape that can't be ejected. But you know what? It absolutely can. Sometimes when we think about affirmations, if you've heard of them, positive affirmations, to try to make statements with consistency over and over again so that we can believe them. When we're out of practice, when we have lived a life where we're constantly beating ourselves up and speaking negatively to ourselves, and then we see a positive affirmation that we're supposed to keep saying to ourselves, it can sometimes feel fake. It's because we're out of practice. We have that negative tape looping in our head, and it's been doing that for far too long. So instead of a blank statement, I am, and fill in the blank, I am enough. So often moms don't feel like they are enough. And when they're trying to just repeat, I am enough, I am enough, I am enough, sometimes it's going to feel fake for a very long time. And so I have a trick to flip the script just a little bit so that you can make progress towards knowing and believing that you are enough. There's real power when we use our words in a positive light to create a life you love. Choose to create a life you love based on the steps that you take to change the script in your head. You want to eject that negative story that you hear over and over and over again. I want you to say, instead of I am enough, how about saying, I love and accept myself even though, and you insert whatever you find truthful right now. I love and accept myself even though I make mistakes every single day as a mom. I love and accept myself even though my priority was not on my health in the last year. In changing your words, you can change how you see and how you feel about yourself. And changing how you see yourself has a wonderful potential to change your actions. So, how we see ourselves and how we feel about ourselves can change the way we see ourselves, which can then change how we act. So flip the script on something that through love and acceptance you can change instead of changing through shame and guilt. I often like to tell myself that in order to become more joyful, I need to clear out the junk to make room for more joy. Because often the mental clutter that invades our brains is negative. It doesn't make us feel good. And so when we love and accept ourselves, even though whatever truth you see, then we can come from a place of self-acceptance that can create lasting change. Now, you can beat yourself up into losing 15 pounds, but how likely do you think, How likely are you to sustain that change if when you lose that 15 pounds, you still have those negative thoughts running through your head? I want you to ask yourself that. I also want you to take a look at the precious now and what's going on in your head. The negative thoughts. They're lies. These negative thoughts about ourselves. And those lies need a truth to replace them. So the next time you hear yourself say, I'm not enough, think about how we flip the script. What truth can you replace it with? Maybe you see another mom excelling on the outside. Again, no one knows all that goes on in other people's lives. And that is such a problem when we try to compare ourselves to other people. But maybe you see someone from the outside who is, quote unquote, rocking motherhood and doing the homemade cupcakes and always at the events for the kids. And you see that and try to compare yourself and you create a negative thought. So you say, I'm never going to be like Susie down the street. But the truth is that you may not have the same gifts that Susie has. You know what? You have gifts. We all have God-given gifts that can help us in this life and help others and change others' lives and change ourselves to be the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. So instead of spending time dwelling on what you don't have, how about you tell the truth and say, I may not have this gift, but I have gifts that I need to use instead of spending time wishing I was someone else or something else or had something else. Whatever that lie is, come up with the truth to replace it with. I want you to use this strategy, a new story, to create a new image in your mind for you to be able to soak in the precious moment and be grateful for the precious moment instead of wishing you were someone else, dwelling on the past, and beating yourself up in the now instead of coming from a place of love. Be aware of our thoughts. Be aware of them. Hold space for the thoughts. So if you have a negative thought that comes to your head, hold space for it. Can you change something about that negative thought? Replace it with a truth. Can you change just a little thing about that thought? Because when we tweak it just 1 degree, we can have a positive impact on the way we think about ourselves. And the way we think about ourselves helps us to create more positive thoughts in our head and helps us to take actions that reflect who we believe we are. And I want you to try this out. See if you can flip the script and live in the now instead of being caught always in the negative loop in our head, either dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. Let me know if you try this out, and I hope that you see benefit like I have seen benefit in my own life.